All right, so we have a new one up from Martine. So Martin's thesis is a collection of stories that includes a quiet investigation into single fatherhood, sentient houseplants, and a plague of zombie housewives that devour their families and neighbors, to describe a few. They remind me of my cousins. I, re I really do feel a kind of kinship to Martine's aesthetic. So it's serene and absurd, quiet yet explosive, and also very funny and acutely aware of our modern experiences. In one story titled The Garden of Asgard, Martine writes, in an online society ruled by the iron fist of Instagram hoes and workout influencers, meme pages, and celebrities who make a separate account for their pets, Lorenzo, or low-key Thorenzo, via his internet persona, decided that he wanted a change in scenery. Ultimately, what the character receives is quite a change as his precious succulents become heads of his household. So when first working with Martine during workshops, I remember how at ease he seemed with absolutely everything. He was the epitome of the unbothered man. As someone known for her unbothered nature, I recognize the look. The no criticism, no subject matter, no assignment, great or small, could disturb Martine's chill and good humor. It is a kind of existential nature reflected in the characters within his collection. They encounter all the stresses of life, real and figurative, as with the zombie apocalypse, which is usually just a metaphor for humanity's rush toward an automatized, monotonous existence that in itself is cannibalistic to our imaginations and our souls. The tone is always unvexed. Martine even touches on the feeling of the past 2 years in one story where the day refuses to turn over into tomorrow. Here we watch who we became then, stuck, panicked, violent, irrational, short-sighted creatures. Fortunately, Martine reaches beyond that and writes, what a blessing it is to keep waking up, regardless of whether or not time has moved forward. Or even better yet, in order to move forward, we must remember what we are moving towards. I agree. Martine, it is a blessing to remember and to imagine deeply into the future with a sense of patience, reflection, and the willingness to see ourselves in each other, recognize our ridiculousness and our grace, then laugh about it every once in a while. So let us gather our coolest, most unbothered selves as we go now into the mad worlds of Martín Gutiérrez.
Thank you, Venita, for that amazing introduction. A lot deeper than I thought I was. So thank you for giving me the, the wherewithal and the confidence. So first and foremost, I'd like to thank this program in particular. When I was attending here as an undergraduate, I did not know what I wanted to do. The first class that I took, my teacher, Dr. Shane Wood, as he is now, he said, write about today and, you know, just think about what you want to do. And I didn't know what I wanted to do. I didn't know if I wanted to be here or not. And after taking his class and another class, I found out the MFA program here was what I wanted to do. And I didn't think I would ever get to that point. So I want to thank Jefferson for being there and sending a lot of emails and keeping us on track with everything. Stephen for answering all my questions from last year, the year before, everything in between. All the wonderful MFA faculty here. I have a couple names. I have Ruth Jenkins, John Bynan, I have John Hales. Thank you for making me appreciate nonfiction writing and writing about my grandparents and stuff like that, and making me feel like I got a little bit closer than by writing that. So thank you. Mai Dervain for being there and being a good a good resource for life after this, because there is a life after this, and that can be a little scary. I want to thank Ronald Zarigian for being there as I try to write this, get my thesis stuff all together before the deadline. I want to thank Mr. Davis from my high school for making English fun. Shane Wood for, again, making me appreciate English. Carly Takamoto for giving me the confidence to evolve from poetry into fiction. She's the one who pushed me and said, you could do this, so do it. So I did. Thank you to Tanya Nichols, being on my committee and also being a wonderful lecturer and making me appreciate fiction. So Brent Saito for being there, when Stephen wasn't, and and teaching me a lot about different aspects of writing, not just poetry, but writing in general. Venita, thank you so much for giving me a new outlook on how to write stories and cram them all out. To my parents and family, for supporting me, and you'll get a glimpse of my writing probably for the first time because I'm to myself. So I hope it is what you expect, or maybe not. Yeah, and to everyone on Zoom right now, thank you for watching. And last, to Randy and Levi, my wife and my son, for watching at home. Levi, you should be asleep, but if you're not, that's okay. And Randy, I love you, so thank you. Thank you for being there for moral support. And thanks be to God for bringing me here and hopefully showing my path later. So with that being said, let's get into the reading now. So this one is this is an excerpt from my story, Lost Memories. In this story, I have a man who's working at a senior retirement home. His name is Sean, and he befriends this old man named Mr. Givens. Mr. Givens has Alzheimer's, and he's at his last days, so he starts to remember everything about his late wife. He's been abandoned by his children, and Sean has taken a liking to him because his grandparents were once just thrown into a retirement home too. So in this excerpt I'll be reading will be one of his wife's, Mr. Givens' wife's memories, and it kind of has a key role in the story. So 70 years prior, Samantha Smith, Charles's late wife, had lost her brother Jonah in a tragic accident. The two of them lived down in southern Los Angeles. Her mother had immigrated from Mexico and had met her father, who was enrolled in the US military in World War II near the base. When Samantha was 3, her father Joseph had died in war after being deployed overseas. All by herself, Samantha's mother raised the 2 children all on her own, knowing little English. She would frequently take the children to the coast, where she would tell her children to dip their fingers in the ocean and bring the salty water to their foreheads. She would tell them, "Cuando piensa a su padre, recita una oración y ponerse al agua del mar en su frente para mantener su conexión con él." The water, she said, would connect them so long as they continued to pray and keep him in their hearts. And perhaps one day he would come to visit them. Samantha and Jonah had run off on one visit to the outskirts of the coastline. Their mother had fallen asleep while the kids took off to explore and play. They ventured off into the cold waters further and further, looking for shells and pretty rocks. Across their necks, both wore a cross engraved with their names and a precious rock within. Samantha's necklace was made of gold with a small emerald placed inside, while Jonah's was silver with a small sapphire. As they made their way further and further into the waves, the necklaces would bounce off the surface and drip with salt water until they were fully immersed in the sea. Samantha, being the big sister, realized that it would probably be best if they turned back, as the water was starting to become wilder with each crashing wave. "Jonah, we should head back now. Mom is probably wondering where we are," Samantha said, lifting her neck up above the water's surface and bracing herself in the crash of the waves. Jonah dunked his head underwater and popped back up, spitting water from his mouth. "Oh, come on, Sam, I can still swim a little more. Just a little bit, please." The water crashed upon his head, and a few seconds later, he popped back up, laughing and giggling. "Jonah, I'm serious. I really think we should go back. We barely know how to swim." "Speak for yourself. I can swim great." "Jonah!" Her brother ignored her and dunked his head down below the surface again, his necklace floating atop the water. "Fine. If you won't get out, then I'll just go get Mom," Samantha said, inching her way towards the sand to go run back and get her mother to yank her idiot brother out of the sea. Jonah stuck his tongue out and turned his attention back to the ocean, diving and swimming back and forth to his heart's content. Samantha ran across the beach to where most of the people had made camp and found her mother, now awake and searching the shore for her missing children. Ahí está, where's your brother? Ma, Jonah doesn't want to get out. I told him to get out, but he still won't leave. She grabbed her mother's hand and ran to their secluded solitary spot on the beach, following the little footsteps she made before stopping and pointing out towards the water. See? Está. Samantha gasped as she couldn't pinpoint her brother. Her mother quickly got down and held Samantha by her shoulders. Where is he? She yelled out, her voice panicked and strained. He's over there, I swear. Samantha kept pointing and exclaiming where Jonah was, hoping it would come true, but he was nowhere to be seen. Her mother quickly jumped into the water and started searching for Jonah, wading in and out and going back and forth to see if he had drifted off away from Samantha had taken her. Samantha fell to her knees and began to cry, thinking of how if she only had been more forceful with Jonah, perhaps they would be on their way home to have some of their mother's delicious caldo, or maybe something even better. But now Samantha and her mother were here, the cold wind blowing across their wet skin and causing the goosebumps to burst out from their arms and legs, weighing them down from finding Jonah. Samantha dipped her hands in the water and pressed it firmly to her forehead, the tears still pouring out from her eyes and mixing in with the salt of the sea. She closed her eyes even tighter and prayed to God and her father to help fix everything. She wanted to find her brother. She wanted to go back and return to normal. She hoped her mother wouldn't be mad at her for being a bad sister, for losing her only son. When she opened her eyes again, she was facing down, and in front of her was Jonah's necklace, silver with a shiny blue sapphire inside. To her horror, she touched it and realized it was not an illusion. It was there in her hands, glimmering against the sunlight. Jonah was gone. Samantha brought the necklace over to her mother, who was walking back to the shore. She had a sad look in her eyes. She brought it up near her face. She pressed her thumb on the sapphire and rubbed it gently before handing it back. ¿Y qué es esto? What? Ma, ¿qué estás haciendo? Why are you giving me this? ¿Es tuyo? Her mother signaled her to go back home. Samantha desperately pleaded to her mother about Jonah, but she was unaware that she had lost her son, or had a son for that matter. When they arrived at home, Samantha clutched the necklace tight before tossing it out the window, frustrated that her own mother had forgotten about Jonah. And as she released it from her hands, she stormed out her room and made her way down the hall to Jonah's room before asking herself, when did this room get here? When did Mom decorate this room with all this boy stuff? The necklace shimmered in the grass until it didn't, as it was covered by grass and dirt and years of being forgotten about. So that was an excerpt from that. And I have one more. I wanted to read. I won't take too much time, but it is the Garden of Asgard, spelled Assgard. The plants were mostly kind to Lorenzo. He was, after all, their daddy. They freely let him roam the house, work out, relax, basically anything he wished, except, of course, for removing the plants. That was one of the big no-nos. It's not like he could if he wanted to. The once small Instagram famous plants had grown exponentially to absurd lengths. Lorenzo and his muscles, chiseled from stone by years of intense training, were no match for outstretched aloe vera arms, crassulaceae tendons, and cactus daggers. While he had the freedom to do so, Lorenzo did not feel at liberty to do as he pleased. The plants essentially locked him in the west wing of the mansion while they partied with the half-naked social media influencers and celebrities at the pool on the other side of the mansion. Lorenzo sat down on the workout bench in the room and started to wonder where it had all gone wrong, ruminating on the past year like the thinker. It had begun nearly 1 year prior on a sunny April day. Lorenzo had just rolled out of bed after looking on his social media when he found inspiration to purchase succulents for himself. These plants had sprouted somewhere in the middle of all his workout tips, influencer videos, and protein power ads, Lorenzo's personal algorithm smoothie. Then he came across an unpopular user, Garden Mama 2Z, and a video of their plants, an assorted array of succulents. While he wasn't fond of the name or this person's decision to post their over-devoted idolatry for politicians and feeding their animals vegan food for extra content, Lorenzo had taken a great liking to the succulent plants themselves. After doing some online research, now that he knew what the magic word was for these plants, he discovered that all of Garden Mama's plants were all succulents. He was shocked to see how different they could be, how vibrant, small, tall, and easy to care for they could be. Stumbling across other users with the hashtag succulents, Lorenzo discovered more popular postings of these plants. In some videos and pictures, he saw that they were in Pokemon planters or shot behind a crystal clear backdrop or filter, or even pets were pictured side by side to perhaps desperately squeeze some more likes. Lorenzo did not believe succulents alone would create fame online, but he was intrigued to get a plant for himself since he enjoyed seeing their little personalities bloom from such tiny spaces. He quickly decided then and there to go to the local nursery and pick out some succulents to call his own. He even decided to make social media accounts for his new soon-to-be plants, but for him, and documentation purposes only, he reasoned with himself. As he made his way inside the plant nursery, Lorenzo naturally became more drawn into the smaller succulent species. He could already picture taking a photo of these plants by the windowsill and spritzing them water, captioning it, just caught these today. Don't they look #succulent? He snickered to himself as people walked by. He thought that should be a new trend. Calling something or someone thick was overdone. And the version with 2 C's just confused the old white people online. No, saying something was succulent had a more profound effect, like a succulent succubus, perhaps. While planning gimmicky trends for his succulent photos, he continued the hunt for his keepers. As a big guy, Lorenzo had to squeeze between the aisles of the nursery and control his pythons, the nickname that was given to him by clientele and coworkers alike at his gyms for Lorenzo's arms, from knocking over the delicate, breakable planters and seedlings that were on the shelves between the aisles. Lorenzo's big stature was highlighted by his physical reputation. He was given the name Thor by some of his coworkers and the clients at the gym who admired his impeccable physique. He was seen as a fitness god and was so popular at the gym that the owners had asked if Lorenzo would like to be hired as a personal trainer. The gym, struggling to appeal to the more mainstream corporate workout facilities, wanted to recruit Lorenzo to offer him a job, but also to market their brand and keep revenue in the green. Fortunately for them, Lorenzo gladly accepted. With the gym subsequently garnering more attention, so did Lorenzo's online presence and footprint. He garnered an average of 1,000 likes on his posts and was just a few dozen followers shy of hitting 2,000 followers. Low-key Lorenzo, his social media tag / nickname, was a helpful resource for workout and dieting tips, and once in a while, he sprinkled in bits of his personal life. But Lorenzo knew what the people wanted, and so he had to uphold the reputation. His reputation was as massive as he was in town, and now it approached the 4.5 Yelp-rated nursery's checkout line and its most elderly cashier. Lorenzo handed the succulents toward the cashier. Janice, he assumed, since that was what was imprinted on her name tag. Janice adjusted her glasses and was startled to see Lorenzo standing in front of her. Although she couldn't figure out if it was his tall size or his exposed right pectoral that had freed itself from the reins of his tight tank top muscle tee or his charming smile and well-groomed facial hair. Lorenzo watched her carefully as she fumbled the first succulent in her frail hands and then was able to bounce back for the second succulent, placing them both in a bag for Lorenzo to take care of and transferred home. After the swipe from his card, the weekly 2-for-1 deal was a success, and Lorenzo took his succulents, his pythons, and himself home. That's it. Thank you.